everyone. I'm Stella Sivi. I'm a health and fitness coach and a podcaster. And my podcast is called Inspire because I always have guests who speak about health, about mindset, and they giving motivation for us women. So today I have here Lynn. She's my special guest today, and she's a grandma, and she looked great. And I know she has two books. She's author of two books, and I would like really know about you. Hi, Lynn. How are you?
It's so fun to do this, and I can't get over. I mean, it's like talking to someone on another planet, right? Here we are, and occasionally it's someone from New Zealand or Australia, and now you in Hungary and me in California, and it all seems so ordinary now, but I love it. It's magic to me, and every time we make it work, it feels like a miracle. So I'm delighted to be with you and your listeners. And this is my favorite, maybe my favorite subject. You know, babies, dogs, I don't know, a lot of things, but health and wellness and happiness are what I love to talk about.
Yeah. So I'm really interested. I saw on your page that you do so many things in your life. I just you were actress, sorry, makeup artist, screenwriter, illustrator, journalist, wedding planner, and so on. So your story
And
has to be incredible.
that's just because I'm old, right? If you live long enough, you do a lot of things for a lot of different reasons. And when we were starting out, we didn't have a plan. You know, women, I graduated from high school and I was 18 years old in 1964. We didn't have a plan. You know, there was nothing out there for us except you'd get married, you'd have some kids, you know, and maybe if you were career minded, you would become a nurse or a teacher. But that was it. You know, there was so much that just was not available to us. So the good part of that, I think, in a way, was that as women, we could, shall we say, go off the rails a little bit. And I certainly did. I mean, it was the 60s, you know, so I went to Paris and I did stuff. But what got me started on my path, Stella, was that my mother died when I was 18. And as we all know, no matter what age you are, when your mom passes, that changes everything in your life. It's a big passage. And in my case, I was so young. And it was the end of my household that I'd grown up in. And my dad went off and got married very quickly, and my siblings were gone. And my whole life was vanished.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Everything I had known and grown up with was gone. You know, there was a relative or two who cared a bit, but essentially I was, as we say here, my luggage was on the lawn. You know, I was done with my growing up, with my home. The positive part of that was that I was free to go and do whatever I was going to go and do. And so I went and I did as much as I could, and had as much fun as I could. And in the 60s, there was a lot of fun to be had, let's face it, in Paris and in London. And I grew up, I actually was born in Hollywood, California, of all the crazy places to be, right, which explains my resume, because in those days, and it's still, it was a company town. So my friends were all working in music or film or something, and they'd say, well, could you do, you know, could you help me with the script, or could you come over and do makeup for that? So I ended up doing these things, saying, yeah, sure, I'll do that, the way you do. And I enjoyed a lot of that. It was fun. It was great as far as I was concerned. But there was always somebody who was a better actor or a better screenwriter or something than I was. And so it kind of directed, I wound up being behind the camera as a creative director for commercials and print ads. And then my life led me to the Silicon Valley in 1980. I landed in the middle of this technology revolution and lucked out. I had left a marriage and had kids 2, 3, and 4 when I came back to California. So 3 little kids and single mom, and I was their sole support. But I landed someplace where they were so desperate for talent that they hired women to do these things because I said, yeah, I can do that. You know, I could write about that computer. And I could. And it was my older sister who was a nerd. She was an engineer and she was in the Silicon Valley. And she said, okay, sit down. You're going to learn how to use this Apple II. This was 1980 when these were brand new, you know, microcomputer, brand new. And I said, no, I'm not. No, I'm not going to do that. She said, yes, you are going to do that. You big sister, right? So yeah, you're going to do that. Okay. So I learned how to use, and all of a sudden I thought, wow, this is fantastic. This is so easy. It's wonderful. And then I wound up with a career as a copywriter and art director and creative director doing technology ads for consumers because they didn't have people at that time in the Silicon Valley who had consumer experience. They were all nerds. They were all scientists. And they needed somebody like me who wasn't a scientist, but who could translate the science to the audience that they were looking for, this new audience of business people. So I kind of stumbled into, by saying yes, you know, yeah, okay, I can do that. I stumbled into this career in sort of industrial marketing, but it was this new amalgamation of technology and consumer products, which we now are up to here. You know, we're all carrying around all this technology all the time and using it for everything that we do. But in 1980, we had to sell men on the fact that they should touch the keyboards with their own hands. Because until then, there were women to do that. It was only women who touched keyboards. And most of us women knew how to do that because we had learned, you know, if we were going to be a secretary or a teacher, we knew we had to know how to do it. But the men always had somebody to do it. So it was a big deal to convince them that using a keyboard was a manly, powerful thing to do, right? That they should pay a lot of money for a keyboard that they would use themselves. So it was a great adventure, Stella. And the good news too is that I made enough money to raise my children. You know, I could have a decent house and big girl money, I like to call it. And so also have wound up doing a certain amount of mentoring and coaching over the years for the other women who wanted to provide for their families or themselves and profit from this new economy where all you had to have was a brain and keyboard and you do miraculous things. So yeah, it's been such an interesting time to live in this time from the 50s. I was born in 1946 and you know the change, the evolution from then and until now has been phenomenal. And now here we are with all this talk about artificial intelligence and everything. And
Yes.
I don't know.
It's amazing. Yeah.
You've met my
And
dog,
how
V.
come? I see. And when come in your 50s, it was something changed you, your health, or
Well,
it's
it was
happened something?
in my 40s. I learned that actually, when my children were born, late 20s, early 30s, I had gestational diabetes. And I was told at that time that I would probably develop type 2 diabetes when I was in my 40s. So when I got into my 40s, I started asking the docs, do you want to test me or something? Because, I might have type 2 diabetes. And they would say, well, no, you're not overweight and you're fine. And when I finally got someone to test me, sure enough, my numbers were bad. And so that from the beginning, I had a clue that it was going to be up to me to figure out really how to deal with this. And the reason I was determined to do it was because my mother had died of a chronic disease. And my attitude was, I am going to do everything I have to do to stay here on earth with my kids, raise my kids, have my life. They're not going to get me. I'm going to be the last one standing. And so I learned everything I could learn about type 2 diabetes. And one of the things that I learned was that the medical establishment was kind of lousy at it. They assumed that whatever they told you, and actually there are statistics about this, people do not comply with their doctor's orders. And I forget what the number is right now, but there is good research on how few people actually take the medication and do what their physician tells them to do. And so particularly with something like diabetes that would require lifestyle change, right? It would require eating differently, exercising, thinking differently about things. The doctors just assumed, they would tell you this stuff. They'd say, yeah, do this, do that. But their assumption was you're not going to do any of it. So no point in even telling you. Furthermore, as Art, by the way, who's on the show a few episodes ago, Arthur Clark, and he and I are now communicating on emails because
Really?
he talked about sugar detox. He talked about how hard it is to get off of sugar, which yeah, I'm here for that. I never struggled as he did with a lot of extra weight, with bad repercussions with kidneys and so on, because I started out in my 40s going, I am not gonna have this beat me. So I knew early that I needed to move, to walk, to exercise. I knew I needed to really watch my weight. I knew I had to eat good food. And somehow I understood that it wasn't just sugar, but sugar played a role. But by reading everything I could read, because physicians, as Art discussed and you've discussed, don't have much training, most of them, in nutrition.
Yes.
And that's not where they're coming from. Their response is, I'm writing this for metformin, and then I'm going to write this, take some vitamin D, and share prescriptions. And you need to do more than that. You need to just do more than just take a pill. But you're not going to get good guidance from most allopathic doctors, Western medicine, we call them doctors. Love them, they're great. My youngest daughter is a nurse practitioner, so she's my mole, Stella. She's the one who tells me what the meetings are at the hospital and what they talk about amongst themselves and so on. And I think it will change. And what's going to make it change? Women in medicine. Can I be a little bit sexist about that?
Yeah.
I think we're seeing the beginning of a revolution that is going to take place in the way doctors serve their patients. Because what we're seeing right now in the United States, particularly, it's corporate medicine. It's all about the prescription, the drug.
Yes.
And the worst food you can buy in any town in the United States is in the hospital cafeteria. And it tells you everything you need to know right there.
That has to change with time.
It has to change, absolutely.
Because I don't like when I go to the doctor and hopefully I don't have to because I'm not going many times, but they look like they are overweighted and they are telling me what is good for me. No,
No,
please no.
it
Give
just
me an
happened.
example and I will
I went in
believe you.
for my annual physical and my labs and all that sort of thing. And I looked around and I must have noticed it before, but it was particularly bad this time. The people in my doctor's office all looked terrible, Stella. They looked awful. I mean, and you know, I that's judgy and everything, but I'm sorry, I do not want to get medical advice from someone whose belly is out to
Yes.
here. I
Yes.
don't want medical advice from someone who has dirty hair either. That's
Yes.
just my prejudice. Sorry. If you don't have sense enough and the ability to take care of yourself, to groom yourself, and plus, you know this, and I think this is, it's not a female trait, but boy, we women are good at this. I can tell looking at somebody's skin. I can tell by the way they smell. I can tell by what their hair looks like. I can tell a lot about that person's health by just looking at their eyes. It's not, and I'm not talking about any kind of magic. It's just ordinary grandma kind of stuff. You know, what does their
Yeah.
hair look like? What do their eyes look like? Is their skin okay? You know, and the thing you know now about going to the doctor is they have 11 minutes to spend with you every year. That's your allotment. And they don't really look at you. And they very often don't even touch you. How can you practice medicine without using your eyes and your nose? And I don't get it. I don't understand. I mean, I really think I would have been better off this visit with a robot, because a robot would have remembered that I had been in there with a back pain. And they would have said, "So Lynn, how's your back?" So yeah, we have to, and it is as hard on the docs as it is on us. They're suffering. They cannot practice medicine the way they want to practice medicine. I know that for a fact. They're exhausted. They're seeing too many people. They have too many directives from above about how to practice medicine. So, sorry, off on a tangent here, but it's a thing that really, really gets to me.
But we can browse on the internet, we can learn things, and we can change our lifestyle
Yeah.
because if who else if we have to do it for ourselves and maybe for our family, but we are responsible for our body, I
Yes.
think.
And my point of view, and the reason, and this is my fourth book, but my biggest one, and I did it, Stella, because I want people to know that eating healthy they'll never eat better in their life than when they make wonderful food from whole food, real
Oh,
food
yes.
without sugar. And
Yes.
I wrote the book to be vegan if you want to, or vegetarian. It's very plant-based, absolutely, but you can add meat or fish, and I tell you what meat or fish to buy and how to add it. But primarily, what it is how to get more vegetables into your life, better vegetables into your life. Because I don't know about Hungarian cuisine, but Americans pretty much eat nothing but crap all the time. They eat bad meat 2 or 3 times a day. When I say bad meat, I mean factory farmed meat that's full of hormones and antibiotics and all kinds of stuff. And too much dairy, way too much dairy, too much fat. And we all need fat, but if you're eating animal products 3 meals a day plus snacks, and you're not eating high quality animal products, not good. So,
Yeah.
so this is This is nothing more
Yeah,
than
Brownies for breakfast. Yeah, I can recommend it. It's very nice book
thank you.
and full of good recipes. Yeah.
And this ranch dressing is something that in the United States everyone eats on everything. So now you can make it yourself, and it's full of vegetables, and it's better than any ranch dressing you ever had. So, and the idea is it's all easy. It's not complicated. You know, I'm a grandma. I'm not a chef, right? I don't want to spend my life in the kitchen, and I don't want you to spend your life in the kitchen. You know, my superpower, if I have one, is that I raised a bunch of kids and their friends, you know, and my friends. And so I knew how to get a meal on the table in 10 or 15 minutes and make it good. And another thing that is happening in the United States, I don't know about Hungary, but in the United States, everybody is eating out of a box or a bag. They're driving through all the time. And so they're bringing their children up, not at the table, but in the back of a car with a bag of food. And what you're missing is not only the nutrition from the food, because you're eating crap, and you're making trash, by the way, too. You're making all this excess trash, but your children are missing the real education that they should have, which is at your table. That's the most
Yes.
important, I believe strongly, that's the most important education your kids get right there. That's where they learn who you are, who they are. They learn how to share with each other, to fight with each other legally, you know, how to argue their point. How to take turns at, I mean, almost anything you can think of is a skill that you can learn, should learn at the table. How to care for each other, how to do your share.
Yes. Because
So
where parents don't give a good example. They're
yes,
giving a bad example, and the children don't know what is the good thing, what they have, what is good to eat, because they don't know it. And
no,
just if somebody grow up and maybe see the difference, then they can change their mindset about food, about sugar, about crappy food or everything, and to eat whole food without sugar.
all that, yes. Yeah, and you know, it's so simple, Celebrate. It bears repeating, I think, over and over. And of course, again, as a grandma, I get to repeat things, right? That's a thing I can do. And it's not what you say, it's what you do. Your
Yes.
children are watching you all the time, and they
Yes.
do everything you say, but they also see everything you actually do. And that's the part that they walk away with.
Yes.
So yeah, the whole idea of eating beautifully, joyfully, respectfully, all those things, you know, we think of food as this kind of, I don't know, thing we have to do, you know, that it's like fueling up at the pump or something. And it's not. It's a ritual, it's culture, it's all this other stuff that if you're in the back of a car eating out of a bag, you're missing it big time.
Yes.
Are
And
you
not
seeing that?
not
Agree?
just that, you're because everybody will be healthier if they eat whole foods and not from the bag. So, and we could avoid chronic diseases and diabetes and insulin resistance and
Yeah.
diabetes free. They're saying dementia is diabetes free, yeah.
Yes.
And
I
it's
saw a statistic the other day that 60% of the calories consumed in the United States are soda pop,
what? Sorry.
soda pops, drinks, soda
Ah,
drinks,
yeah, soda. Yes, yes.
percent of the calories.
Stuff.
And then but I did the math and I thought, you know, that's quite possible because the amount of sugar and calories consumed And especially, I'm in California, it's not quite the same here as it is in other areas, but you see parents giving their children bottles of soda, Coke and Pepsi and those things several times a day, with their meals.
We didn't
And
have at home. I didn't buy it. It just they couldn't drink it because we didn't have it.
no,
We just drink water or lemon water, or I
right.
made a lemon water.
Right. And
Yeah.
my kid would growing up, for one thing, we didn't have the money for anything but water. So they all learned, if we went out to eat by some reason and we were in a restaurant, you were going to drink water. There was no negotiation. There was no discussion about it. You were going to drink water, and you were going to eat whatever you ordered because, that was important money to us. It mattered. So we didn't do it often, but when we did, we drank water with it.
It's the healthiest thing. Yeah. And tell me, how did you reduce your diabetes too? Is it just only with your diet? And what is your
I
diet now?
I take a small dose of metformin at night, which you'll love this, Stella. It turns out it's a longevity drug that everybody wants now, whether they're
Really?
diet. Yes,
What is that name? What is the name?
metformin, glucophage is the generic name, glucophage, which turns out to mimic fasting, which is a whole other topic, which I don't know if we have time to do that today. But yeah, so I take that. I'm happy to take it. No side effect, nothing, no problem. I could probably sell it on the street for more than I pay for it, Um, but other than that, I've always managed my diabetes with diet and exercise. And I've been most effective in the last few years because I learned about plant-based eating. We were told back in the day that we should be eating just meat and vegetables and no starches. And you probably know. Yeah. But what I learned, I particularly refined my approach in 2019. I went to a conference, Plantricians Conference, which were doctors, MDs from all over the world who got together. They were the mavericks. They were the ones who felt they could heal with food. And so they created their own organization, and they were meeting not far from where I live. And I thought, I have to go and see what this is all about. And I actually came up with the money to, which I'm notoriously frugal. So for me to spend the money to go to the conference, you knew I really, really wanted to go to that stupid conference. But it was fascinating. It was a week-long conference of these doctors, some of whom were well known already because they had been speaking out about veganism or vegetarianism. But this conference was data all day, every day. These docs would stand up and put these numbers up on the screen of what was going on health-wise in the world. And blue zone talk, you know what a blue zone is, I'm sure.
Yes, I know.
T. Colin Campbell was there, Dean Ornish was there, Michael Greger was there, all these Cyrus Kambata, all these big names or people who were coming up in the business, and now they're all over YouTube and everything, but this was long enough ago, a few years ago, that they were relatively unknown. But to see the data and hear the surgeons talk about opening up kids 8, 9 years old and seeing the plaque in their veins already from the way they were eating, it really impressed me. I mean, amazing. So I left there a vegan and experimented. I went a whole year without touching animal products at all. But I ate well, no sugar, good whole food, so on, which is just being vegan does not make you healthy. And I don't want anyone to think that's true. It's not. There are a lot of vegans out there who are very unhealthy because they're eating sugar and white flour and, a lot of crappy food. But eating plant-based, no animal products for 1 year brought my numbers even further down than they had been, brought me out of diabetic territory. And so since then I've experimented with, well, how much, can I have the, and so I'm more of a vegetarian. I'm a flexitarian is what I am. If occasionally I will eat some fish or I will eat some meat, but only if I know where it's been, only if I know where it's raised and what it's eaten and so on. I become very fussy about any animal products that I put in my body, which I want you to do. I want everyone to do. You need to source your food carefully, because the people who make that butter are not in business to make you healthy. They're in business to make themselves wealthy, not you, them. And once you get that straight in your mind, that there's a whole industry of people who want to addict you to food,
Yes.
because that's going to make them rich. It's not going to do a thing for you except make you fat and sick, but it's going to make them rich. And you're eating this food and buying this food. So I think I share that message with anyone who researches food, who writes about food seriously. We all know, because we've done the research, we've seen how this happens, that if you want health and vigor, and if you want to be 77 and fabulous, you and full of energy.
You are 77 and look amazing. Yes, we didn't
Well,
say that
thank
in the
you. But
beginning.
we used to think, I thought once you were 70 or 75, you were done. It was all over for you, right?
Yep.
And not true. I mean, your older years can be your most wonderful time, because you you can get away with anything, right? As well as my grandma, she's just like that, right? She's a little crazy, but it's okay. Yeah, it's
But
wonderful. And
we have to be always active and doing exercises and to be a little crazy sometimes. We can do anything we want. Yeah, I think it's mean that it's life, just to live. Yes, and just depending on how we eat and do we exercise, and it's not complicated, I think. And you know the best, you know better than me.
well, it's not complicated. And and we know stuff, Stella. I mean, I know almost 8 decades worth of stuff. It's pretty good. I've been there, I've done that. I can drop names like crazy. But I do work out twice a week, in a little studio that's here in town. Wonderful guy that's very knowledgeable, and I'm there with my friends, which is another part of being healthy. We need our friends, and especially as women, if you have children, you learn this fairly quickly. It's a thing that you're not meant to do alone. It's a thing you're meant to do in a village, in a community, with people who know more than you do, who can help you. So having our friends at any age, they serve different purposes sometimes, but always the same. You need a support group. You need somebody to hold you up sometimes. And literally, if you're taking an exercise class, you need them to pick you up off the floor sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, so, and I live in a wonderful place. I live in a small town on the coast of California with redwood trees and an ocean and birds and foxes and lions. And that's part of being healthy too, I think, is having a connection with where you are physically. And if that's a wonderful town in Hungary, if it's Paris, if it's California, wherever it is, there's probably something to enjoy about your environment where you are. And I don't know, maybe there's some exceptions to that, but I'm fortunate. I love where I live, and I wish that for everyone. I'm sure it's not true, but I can have wonderful walks on the beach and runs if I wish. And there's a hill right here that I can go up. I pant the whole way, but I'll go up the hill. So yeah, movement, if it's in nature, is even more healing.
Yeah, you can enjoy the nature. So, what is your message to others, to women, let's say in 40s, 50s, who they getting older and who how it will be worse, my life, or I couldn't do everything like I did before, or probably I will be sick. They think that is the normal way to aging. And what is your message to them?
My message is my 70s have been the best so far. I'm hoping for a crazy happy 80s and 90s. As long as you're healthy, as long as you're taking care of yourself, I think almost anything is possible. I mean, these days I have friends who are traveling all over the world, who are, and I'm still obviously working. I do a lot of community work. We should talk about hormones at some point, because I encourage any woman. I mean, at one time it was thought that women in their 70s and 80s, why would you want hormone therapy? You know, you're old. It doesn't matter anymore. And that's why I'm saying I think medicine is going to change so much with more women in it. They would know that there's so much benefit to topically applied hormones that I would encourage anyone to investigate with your doctors or find new ones, because that's part of what you can do when you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s that will strengthen your bones. And that was a thing I hadn't thought about. I mean, I'm active, I'm a horsewoman, and we all at a certain age start worrying about our bones breaking. And so, of course, you can eat better for your bones. You can stop eating certain things that will help stop the leaching of calcium from your bones. And some of us have had experience with the medications, Fosamax and those things that they prescribe for bone health now. And I think with good reason, a lot of us are concerned about that, shall I say, and wouldn't touch them with the 10-foot pole. But there's a lot out there now about topically applied bioidentical, and that's key, bioidentical hormone therapy for women. And there isn't a ton of research about women my age and older because, yeah, why? Who cared? Well, we do. So you won't find a ton of studies about it, but anecdotally, I will tell you that it's good for your skin and good for your bones and good for your muscles. I recommend a book by Dr. Selma Rashid, who is a friend of mine. It's got it over here. The Truth Behind Hormone Replacement Therapy. I recommend.
Mhm.
And
I will write down in the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to, is it fun to be in your 70s, 80s? I can't speak for 80s, 90s, but I will. I'll be back in 10 years and we can talk about that. But right now, I'll tell you that I've never felt more free. The thing is, I've raised my children, right? And they're raising theirs. So I get to play with the little adorable wiggly grandchildren, and then and then the mom and dad have to deal with daycare, all the rest of it. I fought my battles, and so now I can enjoy the fruits of my labor, and I love that. I mean, it's wonderful to be. The hard part about being this age is that you lose friends. You experience loss, but that also hopefully makes life sweeter for us when we understand that we should live every day as well as we can and with as much health as we can. And you can't prevent all ill health, certainly not. You can't prevent all accidents, but you can certainly prevent a lot of it. In fact, something like 85, 90% of the things that go amiss are things you can prevent or reverse or manage. Type 2 diabetes, heart disease being two the huge ones.
Yes.
Heart disease being the big killer still. But the diet, the lifestyle recommendations for all of those, it's all in my book. It's the same thing. It's grandma stuff. Just don't eat crap. Stop
Yes.
eating crap. Eat good, whole food, plant-based, real, whole food. That's it. And move.
Yes, it's not hard.
It's not hard. Sleep.
People
Sleep.
here. Sorry.
Sleep is another thing that is part of this. But when you start eating well, you're going to sleep better. And when you start moving more, you're going to sleep better. So it all works together. And that's science-based. There's data to tell you exactly how much better you will sleep if you eat the way you should be eating. So yeah, you're going to have so many benefits if you're not already really being good to yourself about your food. It's dramatic. And I don't know your backstory, Stella. Have you made big changes in yourself with the way you eat and exercise?
Yes, I feel yes, because I wasn't so overrated. I had just 10 kilogram around my belly and my bottom, and a little everywhere, but it was just 10 kilogram. But I didn't like it. So I just woke up one day and I thought, no, not more. I want to change everything. I didn't eat too much sugar or but I eat white flour. So I that changed. I don't eat gluten at all and sugar. And I started to exercise really. And in the beginning, I wasn't so successful, but with time, I listened to the doctors, what are they saying about lifestyle change. And I was always listening and watching everything. And I did courses. And now I'm in the best shape in my life, really. Really. And I'm 54. So I really happy for that because I have now my dream body and I'm doing things I didn't dream of. I will do. I'm doing pole fitness, for example, and if somebody told me in the past that I would do that, I would just laugh because I wouldn't believe. But yes, it's just all lifestyle change, and I have my exercises. It's only 70 minutes. I doing every day, and for my clients also I'm giving that every week another, and it's for all muscles, and it's just only 70 minutes, and they can feel and good much better, and they will lose their belly fat, and with diet together, yes, but it's very good together. It's working good together. So I'm a best shape in my life, and I when I watching people how it's look around me in 50s, it's I don't know, they don't want to know that it's not hard, these changes, and they could just benefit of it. They here in Hungary they think if saying I'm eating healthy, they think, oh, it's not delicious. Probably it's not delicious.
The whole thing, right? That's the whole idea of my book. And I've got a sticky note on it to remind me of something. But yeah, it can be the best you've ever eaten. And it tends to be because we humans tend to just do the same things over and over again. We're not adventurous with our food. We don't experiment with it. So if something comes along and says, here, try this, and you go, wow, oh, look, okay, here's donuts that you make with no flour, no sugar, no oil.
Wow. Yeah.
You bake them. They're absolutely delicious, I promise you, but they're made with nut butter, almond flour in some cases, pumpkin.
It's all good things.
All wonderful things, healthy things. And then you bake them instead of frying them. And once you've tasted some of these things, you don't ever want the greasy, kind of sugary, here's a pasta that you make with your leftover salmon, if there is any leftover salmon. And I recommend brown rice pasta, but now in the market, just since I wrote this book, there are more and more things coming out that allow you to eat beautifully with no processed wheat flour and no dairy if you don't want to eat dairy. And here's an old standby that you'll recognize: mushroom soup. Because every Hungarian grandma, Italian grandma, French grandma, we've always made mushroom soup because it's super healthful and absolutely delicious. And there's a little surprise in mine. There's something I add at the very end that most Americans have in their closet, and you put a little bourbon in it, and it's fantastic. But it could be cognac, it could be something that you have locally in Hungary, just a little something. But foods like that, warm, nourishing, they fill you up. Americans don't eat soup because soup you have to think about, right? You have to maybe think a little bit ahead. I mean, mine are super easy and super fast for the most part, but Americans just aren't in the habit of eating soups. And soups are a great way to use up what's in your fridge and eat super healthy food. And once you get back in the habit, it's like smoothies, cold soups, are the thing now. People are eating smoothies. But if you get back in the habit of sitting down and eating a bowl of soup, and making a meal of it, a simple habit like that. Another thing I recommend highly to people is to try and eat greens, leafy greens, 3 times a day. And people go, wait, salad 3 times? No. Leafy greens. Take your scissors, cut up some parsley, put the parsley on your eggs, put the parsley on your avocado toast. But parsley is one of the most nutritious, wonderful foods you can eat. It's cheap, it's beautiful. You can have a bunch of it on your sink and it looks great. And then you just take your scissors and cut them and put them on. These are such easy, inexpensive things. And you just go, oh yeah, okay, I could do that. It smells good. It looks good. And you need to eat with your eyes and your nose. It needs to really, and there's science behind that. If your body really experiences your food, you're seeing it, you're smelling it, you're thinking about it, maybe you took 5 minutes to prepare it, it goes in a different way than if you're just narfing down a burger that you've grabbed. Your body responds differently. And some of the weight loss that we experience when we just start eating well is things like that. Your body's going, oh, I really ate something, didn't I? Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So we have to focus on health and not on weight loss.
Yes.
If we eat it healthy, we start to eating healthy, we will lose excess weight.
Yeah.
I'm studying that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you should not feel the least bit deprived when you're eating well. In fact, you'll find yourself going, wow, that was good, right? That was a treat. Because you'll be trying a little harder to eat well. That's the difference. It's not eating less, it's eating well.
Yes. Yes, and leafy greens are very good for digestion, and we have to eat it. I always recommend to eat it before, let's say, carbohydrates. If somebody eating carbohydrates, to eat it before carbohydrates, and there will make some net, and the glucose will go slower down and wouldn't make that big spikes like in other way.
And of course, fermented foods we're now focusing on in a way that we didn't used to. And that could be sauerkraut. It could be kimchi is very popular in California now, Korean kimchi.
It's too hot for me.
And things like kefir and yogurt and yeah, Figo wants out. He says, you women are driving me nuts. I don't want to listen anymore. But yeah, fermented foods, we've come to appreciate what they do for us. And it's very important. And that gets into a whole discussion of microbiome, which once you kind of focus and understand, oh yeah, I'm feeding my body not just so that I can I'm feeding my body in so many different ways with this food. Once you become aware of it, you don't want to waste a single bite of food or a single calorie on something that isn't benefiting you. In fact, so much of what we eat is not only not benefiting us, it's actually harming us.
Harming us, yes.
Harming us. But even if you just think in terms of, okay, there's neutral food that doesn't do anything, and then there's really important, good, nutritious food that does a lot, which do you want? I mean, don't you want to eat the one that every bite is making your brain work better and improving your digestion and making your muscles, your little mitochondria happier? All these things, all these systems
Yes.
in your body depend on you eating real food, real food.
That's it. Yes.
It's lovely. I think you'll enjoy it if you're not doing it now. You are. I know you're.
So we have to choose consciously what we eating, what is
Yes.
good for our body, not just, and we can make it so delicious that we wouldn't miss the old foods what we eat before, I think, because I think it's more delicious than the bad foods.
Much, much more delicious. And then going back to this question of, is it fun to be in your 70s? You bet. And one of the things that's fun, Stella, is that we're no longer prey. You know, you as a woman, you spend so much of your life keeping people safe and at a distance and not walking here and not going there and so on and so forth. And your point of view, without maybe being conscious of it all the time, your point of view is that you are prey. And as you get older, you're given your freedom to a great extent from that. And you are no longer prey. I mean, obviously, you need to take care of yourself. But socially, you're in charge. You know, you become well, around here they call me the queen. In this house, they do. And there is a king too, but yeah, he's a good guy. And you know, that's another thing that surprises people because of some of the prejudices that we have. I met my husband when I was 40 years old, divorcee, 3 kids, crazy life, 3 dogs, a cat, a mortgage, you know, all of this nonsense going on. And he was 29, an engineer, and kind of soft spoken. He was funny and cute. But his pickup line, what he said to me was, try a nerd. You'll never go back. And so I did, and I haven't. But our love stories are never quite what we think they'll be, right? It can be a big, wonderful surprise to some of us when that guy or that other person, that wonderful person, is in the room and suddenly you go, oh, it's you. There you are. And it's hard to predict when and where that's going to be. And it can be in your later life. There are wonderful stories about people who have great romantic connections later in their life. Hopefully you've got a brain by then. Hopefully you've got some judgment by the time you're in your 60s or 70s. If you're like me, you made so many hideous mistakes in your teens and 20s and 30s that the benefit is when you're in your 70s or 80s, you know stuff, which is good. I think it's good.
So do you eat on an eating window or just
I try
eating?
to. I do.
Yes.
I don't do it every day. Sometimes life interferes and you can't. But I'm a lark. I'm up early in the morning, and so I like to do my eating late morning, mid-afternoon, and then I'm done. So it involves one meal, 2 meals, or sort of 2 meals with some food in between, but between usually 10 in the morning and 2, 3 in the afternoon. And part of that is just what feels right to me, because we're all different in our rhythm, as it were. And also I have a good friend who's an Ayurvedic doc, and he introduced me to this idea of eating when the sun is high, when the energy is high in your day. And that's when your body energy is ready to receive food and process food. And since he taught me that, there's been all this science coming out about intermittent fasting and, giving your time. And have you talked about autophagy with your clients or on the show?
Yes. Not in the show, but with my clients. Yes, not in my show.
I think it's an important concept for people to know about how important it is for your body to not eat so it can do all the other things it needs to do that it can only do when you're not eating. And again, in America, we are in the habit of eating all the time, just constantly. And as diabetics, we were told to eat a lot of small meals all the time, not go hungry. Well, no, that's been pretty much disproven. And in fact, if you are borderline diabetic or diabetic, doing some intermittent fasting can be very, very helpful, can improve your numbers. So I recommend that.
Good to hear that.
Advice, you have to do what you do, but I would highly recommend that you discuss that with wherever you're getting your medical advice, whomever is giving that to you. I think you feel good as a result. I think it's a way to boost your energy, and just in terms of your mental state, it helps to not feel that you are the slave of your food all the time. It helps to feel that you're in control, you're in charge, and that if you have a hunger pain, if you feel hungry, there are ways to manage that besides eating. That's a big one to learn. Have some hot tea with lemon in it. Distract yourself. Do something you really like to do for a few minutes. Play the music real loud, something. Do a task you've needed to do. And there are a lot of ways to deal. We always thought that when you're hungry, you should eat right now.
No.
And it's easier said than done. At first, I think it's a habit like some of these others we've been talking about that you need to learn and get used to. But once you're used to it, you go, oh, I see. And you will sleep so much better if you stop eating 3 or 4 hours at least before you go to bed.
Yes.
you're teaching this, right? This is what you're telling your clients. Yeah. Very important, I think. But I also, to me, it's important, especially if you're type 2 diabetic, we have a very driving hunger at times, and we feel controlled by our hunger. And it's good to learn to not be afraid of it, to find ways to manage it. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to hurt you. To be hungry for an hour or 2 hours, you're okay. We had this idea that being hungry meant that our blood sugar was falling to the floor and, we were going to suddenly faint and, no. And of course, knowing what your numbers are, and now they have and I don't have one myself, but these glucometers that fasten continuous glucometers, very interesting, so that you can see your blood sugar and see how it's reacting or not reacting. But I think that just our attitudes have changed about it, and a lot of the fear about it can be put aside. If you're eating whole food, real food, quality food in sensible amounts, you don't have to diet, you don't have to go hungry. And for many of us, what made us hungry was refined carbohydrates.
Yes. That's the biggest problem, I think.
Which is most of the American diet, meat and refined carbohydrates. So and then people say, well, so then what are you going to eat? If you stop eating meat,
so many things. Yeah.
Carbohydrates, what am I going to have? Well, here's a book full of wonderful things for you to have. And I'm sure you have ideas for your clients too. There's a lot that they can have. Yeah. So I'm going to have to let my dog out still at some point.
Okay. I just wanted to ask you, what is your plan for future? Do you planning new book or something?
I am writing some things. I'm getting ready to put this book out as an Audible book, which sounds a little funny, but I think the combination of hearing it, because it's not just recipes, by the way. I tell stories. I talk about a lot of things that I hope will be interesting to everyone, and I love hearing from people about it. But I would like to put out the Audible book so that you can combine that, listening to it, and then you can download the recipes, in the ebook and use them in your kitchen. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to use the recipes. And I've got a couple, 3, 4 other smaller books in the works, in kind of related things. One of the things, I'm sure you're getting questions about it, that I want to write about is keto, carnivore, paleo. What is the right thing to do here? If you watch the YouTubes, the paleo guy says, this is the correct human diet. And then the carnivore guy, usually in a t-shirt, right, with his muscles hanging out, the carnivore guy says, this is the correct human diet. And then the plant-based guy says, nope, here is the correct human. So how do we sort through that? How do we know what really is the correct human diet? So I'll be putting that out. You'll be talking about that. So will I. And I love answering questions from people. So you can contact me, lynnbowmann.com, LYNNEBOWMAN. And Stella and I are in the same business, helping you all be healthy and happy insofar as we can. And we can, because that's what women do, isn't it?
Yes. Thank you very much. It was a great conversation, and
it's been really fun.
I wishing best for you and for your next book too. Thank you. Bye.
Let's stay in touch.
Okay, I will write down your links. Bye.
Bye.